G'day, welcome back to my channel. Now, this is where the Schnellboot got to in the previous video. I had done the upgrade to the machine guns, and here are those machine guns. Haven't they turned out so well? I'm really impressed with the upgrade. Now, there is a cheaper set of photo etch you can get from Edward. Well, it does appear to be more expensive that you buy it. There's only 2 frets, doesn't include the barrels, and that's about it's about 4 shekels. Whereas I paid about 3 shekels and 1 shekel for the 2 sets of photo etch upgrades I've got here. Because I've got an upgrade for the bridge, which is what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to show you how I do the upgrade to make the bridge look much more interesting. And there's the upgrade that I've used here for all those machine guns. Now, the Edward one, although, yeah, okay, it's at the same price, it includes a lot of stuff for the boat as well, for around the torpedoes, to close and open those torpedo hatches, and just little bits and pieces that improve the entire boat. So really, the Edward set would probably be better value in some ways. What it does do is this shield is a lot easier to put together. Not as fiddly as it is in this Griffon series, right? Where I've had to basically try and glue all those pieces together. They kept falling apart. And I didn't use the base of the Griffon. I basically did all this using the plastic from the kit. Now the Edward upgrade, it basically does what I've done here. It uses a lot of the more of the kit parts. So quite frankly, if you can get hold of that Edward upgrade for the Schnellboot, I think it's better. You're going to have to buy yourself some barrels, but those can be bought as well. I think you can get them out of Poland, basically. Well, at least there's a few manufacturers that do aftermarket barrels. You just need to look for a 3.7 centimetre and a 2 centimetre flat gun barrel. And you can buy them. And you'll probably spend about another couple of shekels on those. So yeah, you're about for about 6 shekels, but that's still heaps cheaper than the full Griffon upgrade, which is well over 10 shekels. All right. Well, that's what I've done so far. Now in this video, as I said, we're going to work on that bridge. So let's get on with it. Roll the music. Now the bridge on this Schnellboot is not too bad. It's moulded reasonably well, and you do get the option of putting the little Perspex windows or acetate windows from the kit in there. But there is an upgrade kit from Griffon, which I'm using, and this will turn this bridge, when it's sort of a little bit boring like that, into this. Here's a photo. Now I've already started. I've added the brass inside there, which I don't know what that little triangular shaped thing is. Maybe it was made by Mercedes-Benz. Yes, it's a Mercedes-Benz Schnellboot. Who knows? I don't know. But that's on there. There is a little flap that I'm yet to add there, but I've done this one. See? I've done this one, and look, you can see through. There's a little bit of acetate that goes in the back of that, but I won't put that in until after I've done some painting. But a little bit of acetate will go in the back there, and that becomes a little window, and then there's this little shield there, which will fold up. So I thought that was a bit more interesting than the kit. Kit just has the door up, and it's sort of pretty ordinary. Whereas this, you get rivets, you get all kinds of extra detail, and in my case, a fingerprint. Because I was doing so well, I was really careful, and I was holding everything right, and I was doing all the right stuff, and I was really doing a great job. And then somehow I got some super glue on my finger and touched that corner. I've sanded it as best I can. I'll see how it comes up once I put some primer on, but oh dear, oh well, Now this wasn't that hard to do. In fact, mainly because I cheated. Because if you have a look at the instructions, they're asking you to completely cut away this section and completely cut away that little top bit and completely cut away that. Well, I'm not doing any of that, no, because then I've got to add little photo etch parts to that, and it never works out well for me. It really doesn't. I can never get the edges to match up properly, and there's always lots of putty, and I give up with that sort of thing. What I can do, however, is because the photo etch is so thin, is I stuck mine on top, and honestly, there will be a little line there, a little edge. But by the time it's all painted up and a bit of sea weathering on it, well, a bit of salt, I think will be sort of hard pressed to notice. So that's how I'm going to do it, because the photo etch is so thin that I think we can get away with that, and it's so much easier because then all I have to do is cut out the hole, slightly oversized. So that's what I'll show you now, is how I basically cut all this and prepared it, got my photo etch on, and if we're lucky, I won't get a fingerprint. So first, some drastic surgery, and we're going to have to remove the plastic parts. It's always a scary bit because you're thinking, oh gosh, once I've done this I can't change my mind. So off with a little antenna. A lot of this stuff is too big to really cut off, so what I'll try and do, or at least cut off with that, is I'll get the knife in. I'm being so careful. What I'm using here is I'm using my finger to stop me going too far. Otherwise I could slip with that knife and carve up the little front part there. Yeah, is that called a little focusal? Could be. It's like a focusal, yes. We'll call it a focusal. I don't think it is. Alright, so getting the worst of that out of the way. And the thing is, even if we make this a little bit sort of thinner than it used to be, that's fine because we're adding a tiny little 15th layer of photo etch. So it will come out in the wash. Again, always using my thumb as a stopper, well not my thumb, my finger. Because otherwise you'll slip and go, ah no, I've stabbed myself. So I sort of use this because I can only go that far, you see? Because I'm using this one to stop. It's a little trick we learn after we've stabbed ourselves a million times. Bled all over our model. Okay, how is that looking? Now you could say, why do you need to cut off, Harry? Why don't you just cut that shape out? Well, the thing is, the kit moulding and the photo etch don't match. Their shapes are different. So, alright, so that's relatively flat. Because the sanding sponge can bend, I find it's better to knife this now, because that knife edge isn't likely to bend. Not when I'm doing it like this. So, oops. Alright, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Well, I have enough cut off now that I should be able to work out the hole. Just like the constipated mathematician, I'm going to work it out with a pencil. So, getting my wax pencil, it's all about pencils with me. My wax pencil lets me lift this up and pop it in place. And now get them mixed up. They only fit one way, so check you've cut out the right one, right spot. Okay, so with that in place, I can now pencil Okay. Alright, so that is my rectangle. I'll need to cut just slightly wider than that. Next part of the process is to use a very small pin vise with a drill bit in. So what I'm going to do is, just outside of that rectangle, is where my pin vise is going to go. Hopefully I will not drill into my finger, as I have done a million times before. If you've got a little electric whizzy drilly thing, they're good too. Although, I don't know, I've used those and they end up like burning the plastic or melting it. So I've never had much success with those. Maybe I don't have one that's slow enough. So I just use my electric drilly things on the boats, wood boats. The wood doesn't tend to dissolve. Riveting stuff, Harry. Riveting stuff, yes. Man drilling holes. Oh, yes. Award-winning. There'll be an Oscar in this for you. Alright, so drilled them out slightly wider. I'll add a few more because you'll see the method of my madness in just a sec. Okay, we have our Swiss cheese, and now it's a simple matter of joining the dots. And they usually join up quite easily. I think this knife's getting a bit blunt from all the rough work I've been giving it. And we're getting there. Ideally you would cut both holes before putting any photo etch on. You know, prepare your plastic. I've only done it this way so I can show you before and after. So again, don't do as Harry Houdini does, because I'm always cheating because I'm doing videos. Because the thing is, this pushing and flexing can pop all your photo etch off. So I'm running the risk of doing that. Whereas you're better off doing anything that's going to cause any bending and flexing. Do that before. Alright, so there we go. Holes out. And we'll just clean it up. A nice straight edge on that. The only reason you want a straight edge is if it is seen, if you look at the other one, if you just see it through there at some angle, it's nice if it's finished, okay, and it's smooth. That's all. Whereas if you left a really ragged one, you know that somehow that would be the one you'd always see. So you always tidy up your work. This is nothing with woodwork, is you always do the hidden areas as well. Because you never know when your work will be exposed. And if you're too slack in those little areas you thought were hidden, you have done a crappy job. They're the ones that come back to haunt you. Okay, there's my rectangle. So now getting my trusty wax pencil, poppadomming that on. How did we do? I think we've got it. That'll need a bit of a file out, so it'll lose a little bit, but essentially my hole pretty well matches their hole, and it's always good if you get your holes intact. Yes. Now if you're new to my channel, it's the first time you're watching my videos, especially about photo etch, you may not have seen this before. Some super glue, this is slow sap. I like this stuff, it just gives me a little longer before it absolutely sets, and that gives me time for some wriggle room, whereas at least in my climate, if I put the CA glue on, often that's it, the part's stuck, and that might not work for me. What I also do is I put it in a tea candle, right, which is sitting in the wax, and surprisingly, this is a tip that was given to me, I didn't believe it at first, but now I'm sold, that CA glue will last and last and last. I'll probably get half an hour to an hour out of it because something about the wax stops it from setting. It's rather clever. Alright, so on with my CA glue into the area I want to go. I don't want to go too close to the edges because if it pushes out, that's probably where I get my finger covered in the stuff. So mainly around that hole. Now, using my wax pencil, it's another little trick that I use with photo etch. So we'll bring it over, get it as close to where I want it. In fact, that's pretty well damn near perfect. Just needs to go up a touch. See, there's where the super glue is. That's where my fingers are going to hit it. So I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to use the other side of my toothpick to push this into place. There we go. Now we've got two of them. Okay, we've got a few little bits to add. Now while that CO glue is setting, I'm going to need this little rod here. Now they only want 5mm, but that's sort of a little smaller than I can handle. So what I usually do, well what I did in this one, is I cut about twice that. So I've got something that I can actually hold on to. There was a lot more of this wire in the kit, but I kind of stole a lot of it to do those machine guns. So, pick the straightest part, and that's what I'm going to put it on with. Now that sits amazingly at this weird little angle, and you think, oh, that's going to be a bloody pain to do. Well, a couple of things we can do. We could kind of file that at the angle, but then we've got to make sure we know what that angle is, we put it in. But what they've done to help you, and it seems silly at first, but then I tried it and it worked, is they've got these tiny, I don't know if we'll even see them, there are these tiny little O-shaped rings. And normally I'd leave ridiculously small parts like that off the kit. But in this case, and forgive me because I'm cutting on my cutting mat to get this one out, but it is so tiny, I don't care. So there it is. Again, wax pencil. It's so tiny. But that does work very nicely with this and helps it actually all go together. So that ring will go on there, hopefully. Yep, right, so that ring's on there, amazingly. Just sits on the end. And then if you're lucky, a bit of CO glue, and working fairly quickly, that silly little ring, I think I'm blocking all the light, that silly little ring actually helps this thing stand upright while mine's fallen over. Straight. 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 Hold your breath, Harry. Okay. Same angle there, same angle there. Now, the reason I made it longer is it's easy to handle. Now, because there's a fair amount of super glue on that little ring, a gasket if you like, and then the photo etch part and the rod, that will all bond together really well and very strongly. So once that sets, and I'm going to leave that a day to set, I'll then be able to trim the top off it and it'll be the same height as that one. That completes this section here to a point. We've got the rod, we've got that on. There are these tiny little sort of hingy things, and I'm not going to put those on. I don't know, they're too tiny. Any part that's that small. I mean, I was lucky enough to get this little ring on, but it does work. That ring gives a little gasket that holds the rod in place. So that I found to be quite useful. Now, there is a little frame here for the acetate. I'm probably not going to use the frame. I'll just put the acetate behind, make sure that fits inside my plastic at least, and I'll be able to glue that in with some PVA white wood glue. So that'll work well. Now, these little covers here, which hang down, right? And you need those, really. You've got all the trouble opening this up. You've got to have the little cover that hangs down. Now, it can be quite complex, especially if you do it the way they say. And that is, there's a top part of a buckle and there's a bottom part of a buckle, and that all folds and rolls, and I think you're supposed to put a little tube in there or something. And no, didn't bother at all. I've used the hatch part there. Okay, so that one. And then, yeah, there's half the buckle, tiny little thing there, and there's half the buckle there. I simply glued those guys together. No problem at all. Made a long buckle, sort of pushed the little connecting things in and did the best I could because there's just no way I can fold something that small. It's beyond my skill set. So here, you'll see they kind of bump up a bit. I pushed them together and then I kind of bent. Once it was actually glued on there, I kind of bent it over to give it a bit of a 3D look. But I made that really simple, though. I didn't put any rods in, didn't do anything. I just made that a straight buckle that folded over on itself afterwards. So let's do that now. Now, ideally, if I was using the knife, cutting this out, I'd be putting it on something hard, like a block of wood or, basically a piece of glass or something. But I've got these lovely little Xuron cutters, and they're absolutely terrific, because they will cut just like your nippers. They cut up nice and close, and then your part has hardly got any need for you to sand. I don't know if you can see this, but there are little marks there and there. So that is where you're to attach those straps. So that makes this a little easier to do because you've got something to work with. So what I'll first do is I'll set up a bit of tape on my card there so parts don't go flinging off into the distance, and I'll double side tape this and then add the straps. There, the bridge is completed with the two windows cut out. I've also added that front hatch which goes on the front of there. The plastic parts are all on the rails, little railings there, little grab holders, the navigation light and the horn. I hollowed the horn out. I just drilled into it and then I scraped it out until I could get a more realistic look on it. But I'm happy with that. That's really working for me. That's certainly a lot more detail than I had before. And I haven't gone too crazy with the photo etch. As I said, there's no way I can do those side pieces. Well, I could, but it's just too fiddly. It's just too fumbly. And quite frankly, the kit part is fine. And this is often the thing with me. If the kit part is reasonable enough, why bother putting the photo etch on? And that's my rule. Then unless it really improves, unless it really makes it so much better, it's not worth doing. Now, I felt it was better to get those holes in there and have these little hatches open. I like that, and I like this little flip down little fella there. So all of that's worth doing. It's a bit fiddly, but as I showed you in the video, it's not that hard to do if you just take your time. So that's that completed. I can now get on with the painting, and that's what will happen in the next video. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, subscribe, or even go to my Patreon page, and from as little as $1 a month, if you sign up there, you'll get to see my videos a day early and advert free. Plus you get to chat to me and make suggestions about what videos to do next and all kinds of things which we can't do here on YouTube. But for now, that's it for this video. Next time, we'll do the painting and I'll have a really snazzy camo scheme to do. So we'll look forward to that. All right, it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.